The smell of burnt rubber mixed with expensive perfume as Jessica Morgan's red BMW screeched into the parking lot of Sunset Plaza in Beverly Hills. The tires left black marks on the white concrete. She grabbed her Prada purse from the passenger seat, checking her reflection in the rearview mirror. Perfect lipstick, perfect hair, perfect life. The car door slammed with a heavy thud that echoed between the luxury boutiques. Jessica's heels clicked against the pavement, each step a declaration of her importance. The California sun beat down hot on her neck, making her silk blouse stick slightly to her skin. "Excuse me, miss?" The voice was soft, almost apologetic. Jessica spun around, already annoyed. A woman in a stained gray coat stood near her BMW, one weathered hand resting on the hood. The homeless woman's fingers left smudges on the glossy red paint. Jessica's stomach twisted with disgust. "Get your filthy hands off my car!" Jessica's voice cut through the quiet parking lot like a knife through butter. The homeless woman pulled her hand back quickly. "I'm sorry, I don't care what you just..." Jessica stepped forward, her shadow falling across the older woman's face. "Do you know how much this car costs?" "Of course you don't. People like you wouldn't understand." A young mother pulling her daughter toward the ice cream shop stopped walking. The little girl stared, mouth open. The homeless woman lowered her eyes. "I wasn't trying to damage anything. I only wanted to beg, right? That's what you people do." Jessica's voice dripped with venom. She could feel her blood pumping hot in her ears. The nerve of this woman. The absolute nerve. "Please, I just need..." The slap happened fast. Jessica's palm connected with the homeless woman's cheek with a crack that made the young mother gasp. The sound bounced off the surrounding buildings. A car alarm went off somewhere in the distance, wailing like a siren. The homeless woman stumbled backward, her hand flying to her face. Her eyes went wide with shock, not pain. Something else flickered there. Recognition, maybe, or pity. "Stay away from my car. Stay away from me." Jessica's hand stung, but she ignored it. Her chest heaved with righteous anger. "Go beg somewhere else." She turned on her heel and marched toward Valentino, not looking back. Her reflection in the store windows showed a powerful woman who didn't take disrespect from anyone. That's what she told herself. Inside Valentino, the air conditioning blasted cold against her flushed face. Jessica's hands trembled slightly as she browsed through evening gowns. The fabric felt smooth and expensive under her fingers, calming her down. "Did you see that?" a sales associate whispered to another behind a rack of dresses. "See what?" The second associate folded a scarf, not looking up. "That woman outside just slapped a homeless lady. Just slapped her right across the face." Jessica's jaw clenched. She grabbed a black dress from the rack and held it up, pretending she couldn't hear them. "That's terrible. Should we call security?" The homeless woman already left. She was crying. Good, Jessica thought. Maybe she learned her lesson. Her phone buzzed in her purse. She pulled it out. A text from her fiancé, Marcus Reed. "Marcus, can't wait to see you tonight, beautiful. My mother arrives at 6. She's so excited to finally meet you." Jessica's heart did a little flip. Marcus Reed, billionaire tech genius, creator of Reed Innovations, the company that revolutionized cloud security. And he was hers, she typed back quickly. "Jessica, I'll be perfect. She'll love me. Everyone does." She hit send and smiled. Tonight would seal everything. Marcus's mother would see how perfect Jessica was for her son, how sophisticated, how worthy of the Reed name. The sales associate approached with a fake smile. "Can I help you find anything today?" "This dress, size 2, and those shoes in the window, the red Louboutins." "Of course, right away." Jessica watched herself in the full-length mirror as the associate scurried away. Perfect posture, perfect skin, perfect everything. She'd worked too hard to let anyone ruin this moment, not some homeless beggar, not anyone. Meanwhile, 3 blocks away, the homeless woman sat on a bench in Roxbury Park. Her name was Margaret Reed. The cheek where Jessica had slapped her still burned hot and red. She touched it gently, feeling the heat radiate through her fingertips. A pigeon landed near her feet, pecking at breadcrumbs someone had left. Margaret watched it, her mind racing. The gray coat she wore smelled like the shelter where she'd borrowed it that morning. Underneath, she wore clothes worth more than most people's cars. This was a test. A necessary test. Marcus, her only son, had called 2 weeks ago with news that made her heart sink. "Mother, I'm getting married. Her name is Jessica Morgan. She's incredible, beautiful, ambitious, strong." Strong. Margaret had heard that word before. Usually it meant cruel. "I want you to meet her before the engagement party," Marcus had said, his voice bright with hope. "But I want to know she's real, Mother. I want to know she's good." So Margaret had suggested this. A test. She would disguise herself as a homeless woman and approach Jessica in public. She would see how her future daughter-in-law treated the most vulnerable, how she acted when she thought nobody important was watching. Now she had her answer. Margaret pulled out her phone from the deep pocket of the gray coat. Her fingers, still elegant despite the dirt she'd rubbed on them, moved quickly across the screen. She opened the video that her assistant, David, had recorded from across the parking lot. She pressed play. The slap echoed through the phone's tiny speaker. Margaret watched Jessica's face twist with contempt, heard the venom in her voice, saw the young mother shield her daughter's eyes. Margaret's chest tightened, not with anger, with grief. Her son was about to marry a monster. She stood from the bench, startling the pigeon. It flew away in a flutter of gray feathers. Margaret walked toward the black Mercedes parked at the corner. David stood beside it, his face carefully neutral. "Did you get everything?" Margaret asked. "Every second, ma'am." David opened the car door for her. "What would you like me to do with the footage?" Margaret slid into the leather seat. It smelled like new car and expensive cologne. "Nothing yet. Tonight I meet her officially. Let's see if she recognizes me. And if she doesn't, then we'll know she's not just cruel. She's blind to the people she hurts." The car pulled away from the curb smoothly, leaving Roxbury Park behind. Jessica stepped out of the shower at 5:30, steam billowing around her like a cloud. She rubbed expensive lotion into her skin, the vanilla scent filling her bathroom. Her skin felt soft and perfect under her hands. In the bedroom, she'd laid out 3 different outfit options on the bed. The black dress from Valentino, a cream pantsuit that screamed power, a soft blue dress that said approachable but elegant. She chose the blue dress. Her phone rang as she zipped it up, her best friend, Amber. "Hey, tonight's the big night, right? Meeting the future monster-in-law?" Jessica laughed, securing an earring. "She's not going to be a monster. Marcus says she's sweet." "Rich mothers are never sweet, they're judgy. Just smile and nod a lot." "I don't need to smile and nod. I'm perfect for Marcus." Jessica turned to check her reflection from the side. The dress hugged in all the right places. "She's going to love me." "If you say so, call me after and tell me everything." "Will do." Jessica hung up and sprayed perfume on her wrists. The scent was floral and expensive, the kind that announced you before you entered a room. Her doorbell rang at exactly 6:15. Jessica checked herself one final time in the hallway mirror, then opened the door. Marcus stood there in a tailored navy suit, his smile bright and warm. He pulled her into a kiss that tasted like mint gum. "You look stunning." "I know," she grinned. "Where's your mother?" "In the car. She's a little tired from the flight, but she insisted on coming tonight." Marcus took her hand. His palm was warm and slightly sweaty, nervous. "She's going to adore you." Jessica's confidence swelled. "Of course she will." They walked to the sleek black Mercedes idling at the curb. The evening air smelled like jasmine from her neighbor's garden. Jessica's heels clicked confidently on the walkway. Marcus opened the back door. Jessica bent to look inside, her smile wide and welcoming, and froze. Sitting in the back seat wearing an elegant cream dress and pearl necklace was the homeless woman from the parking lot. No, not a homeless woman. Margaret Reed. Jessica's smile faltered for just a second. Her brain scrambled to make sense of what she was seeing. The gray coat was gone. The dirt was gone. But the face was unmistakable. The same eyes that had looked at her with pity this afternoon now studied her with calm assessment. "Jessica, this is my mother, Margaret Reed." Marcus's voice was warm, oblivious. "Mother, this is Jessica." Margaret extended her hand, the same hand that had touched Jessica's car, the same cheek that still held the faintest red mark from the slap. "It's lovely to finally meet you," Margaret said. Her voice was smooth as silk, giving nothing away. Jessica's hand moved automatically, shaking Margaret's. The older woman's grip was firm, her skin soft despite the dirt that had covered it hours ago. "The pleasure is mine, Mrs. Reed." Jessica's voice came out steady, but her heart hammered in her chest like a trapped bird. Did she recognize her? Was she going to say something? Margaret's smile didn't waver. "Please call me Margaret. We're going to be family soon." Jessica slid into the seat beside her, Marcus climbing in on the other side. The car smelled like leather and that same expensive cologne from earlier. Jessica's stomach churned. "Mother flew in from New York this morning," Marcus said, taking Jessica's hand. "She wanted to surprise us." "How wonderful." Jessica's voice sounded hollow in her own ears. Margaret turned slightly to look at her. "I've heard so much about you, Jessica. Marcus tells me you're in marketing?" "Yes, I run campaigns for luxury brands." Jessica forced confidence into her tone. "I'm actually working on the new Cartier campaign right now." "Impressive." Margaret's eyes didn't leave her face. "And you grew up here in Los Angeles?" "Beverly Hills, actually. My father owns several car dealerships." "Ah, you must appreciate nice cars then." Jessica's throat went dry. Was that a pointed comment? She searched Margaret's face for any sign of recognition, any hint of anger. But the older woman's expression remained placid, almost pleasant. "I do," Jessica managed. The car pulled away from the curb, heading toward Spago. Jessica could feel sweat forming under her arms despite the air conditioning. Her hands felt clammy. Marcus squeezed her hand. "You okay? You seem tense." "Just excited." She forced a smile. "I want to make a good impression." "You already have," Marcus said, kissing her temple. Jessica glanced at Margaret, who was looking out the window at the passing city lights. The street lamps cast moving shadows across her face, highlighting the place where Jessica's hand had struck her. The guilt tried to surface. Jessica shoved it down hard. Maybe she didn't recognize me, Jessica thought. Maybe the test worked both ways, to see if I would confess. But confess to what? Defending her property, protecting herself from someone who looked threatening? Jessica's internal justifications built like a wall. "Tell me, Jessica," Margaret said suddenly, turning back to her. "What do you value most in life?" The question hung in the air between them. "Honestly? Success." Jessica didn't hesitate. "I believe in working hard for what you want and not letting anyone stand in your way." "Interesting," Margaret tilted her head. "And what about kindness, compassion?" "Those are important too, of course." Jessica felt like she was taking a test she hadn't studied for. "But in my experience, kind people often finish last. You have to be strong to survive in this world." Marcus shifted uncomfortably beside her. Margaret's smile remained. "Strong. Yes, I've heard that word before." The car pulled up to Spago's valet station. The restaurant glowed warm and inviting, its windows showing glimpses of Los Angeles's elite dining inside. They exited the car, and Jessica took a deep breath of the cool evening air. It smelled like expensive food and possibility. Inside, the maitre d' recognized Marcus immediately. "Mr. Reed, your table is ready." They were led to a private corner booth, the lighting soft and flattering. Jessica slid into the seat, hyper-aware of Margaret sitting directly across from her. A waiter appeared with menus and water. The ice clinked against the glasses as he poured. "So, Margaret," Jessica said, deciding to take control of the conversation. "Marcus tells me you're involved in several charities?" "I am. I believe strongly in helping those less fortunate." Margaret's eyes locked onto Jessica's. "I actually spent this morning working with a homeless outreach program." Jessica's water glass stopped halfway to her lips. "Really?" Her voice came out higher than intended. "That's very noble of you." "I find it humbling," Margaret continued. "You learn so much about humanity when you interact with people who have nothing, how they're treated by those who have everything." The waiter returned to take their orders. Jessica couldn't remember what she said. The words came out automatically. Marcus, oblivious to the tension, launched into a story about a new project at Reed Innovations. Jessica nodded and smiled in all the right places, but her mind raced. She knows. She has to know. But why wasn't she saying anything? The first course arrived, some kind of salad with ingredients Jessica couldn't identify. She pushed it around her plate, her appetite gone. "You're not eating, dear," Margaret observed. "Is something wrong with the food?" No, it's perfect. I'm just watching my figure. Jessica forced a small bite. It tasted like cardboard in her mouth. A woman should never starve herself, Margaret said. True beauty comes from within. There it was again. Another pointed comment disguised as wisdom. Jessica's hands clenched in her lap under the table. Her nails dug into her palms. Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. I'm sorry, I need to take this. It's Tokyo. I'll be right back. He excused himself, leaving Jessica alone with Margaret. The silence stretched between them like a rubber band about to snap. I saw something disturbing today, Margaret said finally, her voice quiet but clear. Jessica's heart stopped. A young woman struck a homeless person in broad daylight. Margaret took a sip of her wine, the red liquid catching the light. In a parking lot, over a car. Jessica's face went numb. That's terrible. It is. Margaret set down her glass. The worst part was the look on the young woman's face. Pure contempt, as if the homeless person wasn't even human. Jessica couldn't breathe. The restaurant's warm air suddenly felt suffocating. Her silk dress stuck to her back with sweat. I wonder, Margaret continued, what makes a person like that? What happened in her life to create such cruelty? Maybe, Jessica heard herself say, the homeless person did something to deserve it. Margaret's eyebrows raised slightly. Deserve it? Deserve to be struck? I mean, maybe she was threatening. Maybe the young woman felt unsafe. The homeless woman was asking for help. Margaret's voice remained calm, but something sharp entered her eyes. She touched a car, that's all. Jessica's throat closed. She reached for her water glass, her hand shaking slightly. Sometimes, Jessica said, scrambling, people have bad days. They react poorly. It doesn't mean they're bad people. Interesting perspective. Margaret leaned back in her seat. So you believe a moment of cruelty can be excused by stress, by a bad day? I believe everyone makes mistakes. Mistakes? Yes. But cruelty isn't a mistake, Jessica. It's a choice. Marcus returned to the table, sliding back into his seat with an apologetic smile. Sorry about that. Crisis averted. The tension didn't break. It shifted, coiling around the three of them like invisible rope. The main course arrived. Steak for Marcus, fish for Margaret, chicken for Jessica. The smell of grilled meat filled the air, rich and heavy. Jessica cut into her chicken mechanically. Each bite felt like swallowing stones. Mother was just telling me about her charity work, Jessica lied, forcing brightness into her voice. It sounds fascinating. Marcus beamed. She's amazing. She's donated millions to homeless shelters across the country. Jessica's fork clattered against her plate. Are you all right? Marcus reached for her hand. Fine. Just clumsy. She picked up her fork again, but her hands wouldn't stop trembling. Margaret watched her with those knowing eyes, patient, waiting. Jessica, Margaret said, do you believe people can change? That someone who acts cruelly can become kind? The question felt like a trap. Yes, I think so, with the right motivation. And what would that motivation be? Love, maybe, or consequences. Jessica met Margaret's gaze directly. Sometimes people need to hit rock bottom before they can rise. Margaret's expression remained unreadable. And have you ever hit rock bottom, Jessica? I've had my challenges. But nothing that taught you real empathy, I suspect. The words landed like a slap. Marcus frowned, looking between them. Mother, that's a little harsh. Is it? Margaret's voice stayed gentle. I'm simply trying to understand the woman my son wants to marry. Jessica's anger surged, hot and familiar. Who was this woman to judge her, to test her? So what if she'd slapped someone who didn't belong near her car? That was her right. But she couldn't say that. Not here, not now. Instead, she smiled. I appreciate your concern, Margaret. I know I'm not perfect, but I love your son, and I'll do everything I can to make him happy. Love. Margaret repeated the word like she was tasting it. Love without kindness is just possession, don't you think? The dinner continued, but Jessica barely tasted another bite. Every comment from Margaret felt loaded with double meaning. Every question felt like a test. When dessert arrived, Jessica excused herself to the bathroom. She locked herself in a stall and leaned against the door, breathing hard. Her reflection in the polished metal showed a woman on the edge of panic. She knows. She definitely knows. But why wasn't she exposing her? Why the games? Jessica pulled out her phone with shaking hands and texted Amber, "Jessica, SOS. Dinner is a nightmare. I think Marcus's mom knows something." Amber, "Knows what?" Jessica, "Can't explain now. Just pray for me." She put the phone away and splashed cold water on her face. The water smelled like chlorine and made her skin feel tight. "Pull yourself together," she told her reflection. "You're Jessica Morgan. You don't break." When she returned to the table, Marcus and Margaret were laughing about something. They looked up as she approached, their faces warm and familial. Jessica felt like an outsider looking in. "Everything okay?" Marcus asked. "Perfect." She slid back into her seat and reached for his hand. "Just needed a moment." Margaret watched this display with those careful eyes. The check came. Marcus insisted on paying despite his mother's protests. They gathered their things and headed for the door. Outside, the valet brought the car around. The night air had turned cool, carrying the scent of car exhaust and night-blooming jasmine. "Jessica," Margaret said as they waited, "would you mind joining me for coffee tomorrow? Just the two of us. I'd love to get to know you better." Every instinct screamed no. "I'd be honored," Jessica heard herself say. Marcus grinned. "See? I knew you two would hit it off." Jessica forced a smile that felt like her face might crack. They dropped her off at her apartment at 10:30. Marcus walked her to the door, pulling her into a kiss that she barely responded to. "You were amazing tonight," he whispered against her hair. "Mother loves you, I can tell." Jessica's laugh came out brittle. "You think?" "Absolutely. She said she wants to spend more time with you. That's huge." He kissed her again and left. Jessica stumbled inside and collapsed on her couch. The leather was cool against her hot skin. She sat in the darkness, her mind racing. Tomorrow. Coffee with Margaret. The test wasn't over. It was just beginning. Jessica barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Margaret's face in that parking lot, felt the sting of the slap in her palm, heard the crack echo between the buildings. At 7 a.m., her phone buzzed. "Margaret." "Good morning, Jessica. How about the Ivy at 10? I'm looking forward to our chat." Jessica stared at the message for a full minute before responding. "Jessica. Sounds perfect. See you then." She dragged herself out of bed and into the shower. The hot water beat against her back, but it couldn't wash away the dread settling in her stomach like a stone. What was Margaret's game? Why hadn't she told Marcus yet? Jessica dressed carefully, a casual but expensive outfit, white jeans, a silk blouse, designer sunglasses, armor disguised as fashion. The Ivy was already busy when she arrived at 9:55. The patio smelled like fresh coffee and baked goods. People sat in clusters, their conversations creating a low hum of background noise. Margaret was already there, sitting at a corner table. She wore a simple gray dress and minimal jewelry. She looked elegant and untouchable. Jessica approached, her heels clicking on the brick patio. "Good morning." Margaret's smile was pleasant, giving nothing away. "Good morning." Jessica sat down, her purse clutched in her lap like a shield. A waiter appeared immediately. Margaret ordered a cappuccino. Jessica asked for the same, though she knew she wouldn't be able to drink it. When the waiter left, silence settled between them. Margaret spoke first. "Thank you for meeting me." "Of course, I wanted to." "Jessica." Margaret's voice cut through her words, gently but firmly. "I think we both know why we're really here." Jessica's mouth went dry. Margaret reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. She tapped the screen a few times, then turned it to face Jessica. The video played. Jessica watched herself slap the homeless woman, watched herself spit venom, watched the young mother shield her daughter's eyes. When it ended, Margaret set the phone face down on the table. "That's you," Jessica whispered. "In the parking lot." "Yes." "You were testing me." "Yes." Jessica's hands clenched around her purse. Anger bubbled up, hot and familiar. "You set me up." "I gave you a choice," Margaret corrected. "You made yours." "I didn't know who you were." "Exactly." Margaret's voice remained calm. "You didn't know, so you showed me exactly who you are when you think no one important is watching." The coffee arrived. Steam rose from the cups, carrying the bitter smell of espresso. Jessica's mind raced through possibilities. Denial, justification, attack. She chose attack. "You know what? This is manipulative. You lied about who you were. You tricked me. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Jessica, but it is revealing. I had a right to protect my property. By striking another human being? She was homeless. She could have been dangerous. Margaret's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Disappointment, maybe, or confirmation. So homeless people are inherently dangerous? Margaret asked quietly. That's not what Jessica stopped, realizing the trap. Jessica, I've spent 30 years working with the homeless, building shelters, funding programs. Do you know what I've learned? Jessica said nothing. That poverty doesn't make someone less human, less deserving of dignity. Margaret took a sip of her coffee. I was testing your character, and you failed spectacularly. So you're going to tell Marcus? It wasn't a question. Should I? Jessica leaned forward, her voice dropping to a desperate whisper. Please, I made a mistake. I was having a bad day. It won't happen again. Won't it? Margaret tilted her head. Because from what I've learned about you, this isn't an isolated incident. Jessica's stomach dropped. What do you mean? I made some calls, talked to people who know you, former colleagues, classmates, even your friend Amber, though she didn't know she was talking to me. Jessica's face went numb. The picture that emerged, Margaret continued, is of someone who has always treated people as obstacles or tools. Someone who believes kindness is weakness and cruelty is strength. That's not true, isn't it? Margaret pulled out a small notebook. Shall I read you some quotes? Jessica once made a waitress cry because her salad had the wrong dressing. She reported a cleaning lady for stealing when the woman just borrowed a pen. She laughed when a homeless man tripped outside our building. Each quote landed like a punch. People are exaggerating, Jessica said, but her voice wavered. All of them? Everyone I spoke to? Jessica's hands trembled. She grabbed her coffee cup to steady them, burning her fingers on the hot ceramic. What do you want from me? Jessica asked finally. The truth, Margaret's voice softened slightly. Why are you like this, Jessica? What happened to make you so cruel? No one had ever asked her that before. Jessica opened her mouth to deny it again, to defend herself. But something in Margaret's eyes, not judgment, but genuine curiosity, made the words stick in her throat. I don't know, she whispered. I think you do. Jessica's vision blurred. She blinked rapidly, refusing to cry in public. When I was 12, she heard herself say, my father lost everything. His dealerships failed. We went from Beverly Hills to a one-bedroom apartment in Van Nuys. Margaret listened without interrupting. Kids at school found out. They made fun of me, called me trash. One girl threw her lunch at me in the cafeteria. Jessica's voice cracked. I swore I would never be poor again, never be weak again. So you became the bully instead. The words hit like ice water. I became strong, Jessica corrected. I clawed my way back. My father rebuilt his business. I got into good schools, made the right connections, and yes, I learned that the world respects power, not kindness. And look where it's brought you. Margaret gestured around them. Success, beauty, a billionaire fiancé, everything you wanted. Yes, but you're miserable. Jessica's laugh came out harsh and broken. I'm not miserable. I'm winning. Are you? Margaret's voice gentled. Because from where I sit, you look terrified, hollow, like a woman who's built a castle on sand. Tears fell before Jessica could stop them. They dropped onto the white tablecloth, leaving dark spots. I love your son, Jessica said desperately. I do. I can change. I can be better. Can you? Margaret asked. Or are you just afraid of losing what you've gained? Jessica couldn't answer. Margaret reached across the table and placed her hand over Jessica's. The touch was warm, unexpected. Jessica, I want to tell you something. When I was your age, I was just like you. Jessica looked up, shocked. I was ruthless, ambitious. I stepped on people to get ahead. Margaret's voice held old pain. I married Marcus's father for his money, not love, and I made everyone around me miserable. What changed? Jessica whispered. I lost everything. Margaret's eyes grew distant. My husband died. The money was tied up in lawsuits. I ended up in a shelter with a baby, working 3 jobs just to survive. Jessica couldn't speak. That's when I learned what really matters. Not power, not success, but human connection, dignity, kindness. Margaret squeezed Jessica's hand. I rebuilt my life on those principles, and I became truly happy for the first time. So this whole test, Jessica said slowly, wasn't just about me. It was about protecting Marcus from repeating your mistakes. Yes? Are you going to tell him about the video? Margaret pulled her hand back and picked up her phone. She looked at it for a long moment. Then she deleted the video. Jessica gasped. Why? Because I believe in second chances. Because I was given one. Margaret met her eyes. But Jessica, this is your only chance. If you marry my son and I ever see you treat another person the way you treated me in that parking lot, I will destroy you. Do you understand? The threat was delivered in the same gentle voice, but the steel underneath was unmistakable. I understand, Jessica whispered. Good. Margaret stood, gathering her purse. Marcus is a good man. He deserves a good woman. Become that woman, or leave him alone. She placed money on the table for the coffee and walked away, her heels clicking against the brick. Jessica sat alone, her coffee growing cold, staring at the empty chair across from her. That night, Marcus came over with Chinese food and a bottle of wine. He was in a good mood, talking excitedly about a new product launch. Jessica tried to focus, but her mind kept replaying the conversation with Margaret. You okay? Marcus asked, pausing mid-sentence. You seem distant. Just tired, she forced a smile. How was coffee with my mom? It was, enlightening. Marcus grinned. I knew you two would connect. She texted me after, said you were interesting. Interesting. The word hung in the air. She's amazing, Jessica said honestly. I can see where you get your strength from. She's been through a lot. Marcus pulled Jessica close. She taught me that how we treat people when we have nothing says more about us than how we treat them when we have everything. Jessica closed her eyes, breathing in his cologne, cedar and citrus. Do you think people can really change? She asked quietly. I believe they can if they want to badly enough. He kissed her forehead. Why do you ask? Just something your mom said. Over the next few weeks, Jessica started noticing things she'd never paid attention to before. The name of the security guard at her building, the way her assistant's hands shook when Jessica critiqued her work, the exhaustion in the coffee shop barista's eyes, small things, invisible things, human things. One afternoon, she stopped by Sunset Plaza to return something. The parking lot looked exactly the same. White concrete, luxury stores, beautiful people. A homeless man sat against the wall near the entrance, a cardboard sign in his lap. Jessica walked past him, her old instincts kicking in. Keep moving. Don't make eye contact. But something made her stop. She turned around and walked back. The man looked up, surprised. Hi, Jessica said. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears. Hi. The man's voice was rough, uncertain. Jessica opened her purse and pulled out a $20 bill. She held it out. The man took it carefully, like it might disappear. Thank you. God bless you. What's your name? Jessica asked. Robert. Nice to meet you, Robert. I'm Jessica. She walked away before he could respond, her heart pounding. It wasn't much, $20 and a name, but it felt like something had shifted inside her chest. That night, she called Amber. I need to tell you something, Jessica said when her friend answered. What's up? Remember that homeless woman I told you about, the one who touched my car? Yeah? That was Marcus's mother. Silence. Amber, you still there? Are you serious? Dead serious. She was testing me, and I failed. Jessica's voice broke. I slapped her, Amber. I slapped my fiancé's mother. Oh my God, does Marcus know? No, she didn't tell him, but she could have. She has video. What are you going to do? Jessica looked at herself in the mirror. Really looked. At the expensive clothes and perfect makeup and empty eyes. I'm going to change, she said finally, or I'm going to lose everything that matters. 3 months later, Jessica stood in the ballroom of the Reed Hotel, surrounded by Los Angeles elite. The engagement party was in full swing. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over designer gowns and tailored suits. Marcus stood beside her, his hand warm in hers. Margaret approached, elegant in a silver dress. She smiled at Jessica, and this time the smile reached her eyes. You look beautiful, dear, Margaret said. Thank you. Jessica meant it. For everything. Margaret nodded slightly, understanding passing between them. A waiter passed with champagne. Jessica took a glass, but before she could drink, she noticed the waiter's hands were shaking. "Are you okay?" Jessica asked him. The young man looked startled. "Yes, ma'am, just nervous. First big event." "You're doing great," Jessica said gently. "What's your name?" "Carlos." "Well, Carlos, thank you for taking such good care of us tonight." The waiter's face lit up. He nodded and moved on. When Jessica turned back, Margaret was watching her with something that looked like pride. "Small steps," Margaret said quietly. "Small steps," Jessica agreed. The band started playing. Marcus led Jessica onto the dance floor, his arms wrapping around her waist. "Happy?" he asked. Jessica looked over his shoulder at Margaret, who was talking with other guests, then at Carlos, who was serving drinks with a little more confidence, then at the door, where she could see through the windows to the street outside, where real life happened beyond the bubble of wealth and privilege. "Getting there," she said honestly. Marcus pulled her closer, and they swayed to the music. The chandeliers sparkled above them like stars. Jessica closed her eyes and let herself feel everything: the silk of her dress against her skin, the warmth of Marcus's hand on her back, the smell of flowers and champagne, the sound of laughter and music blending together. But most of all, she felt the weight lifting, the armor she'd worn for so long, piece by piece, starting to fall away. She wasn't there yet, wasn't the woman she wanted to be, but she was trying, and for the first time in her life, trying felt like enough. The music swelled, the crowd danced, and in the middle of it all, Jessica Morgan took a breath and chose, once again, to be better than she was yesterday. The party continued long into the night, but Jessica's real journey was just beginning.